Is the Lenovo Legion Y540 the right laptop for content creation? Well, let's talk about it.
Traptendo.
What is going on, guys? So I want to do a review on this laptop because I just bought it. A lot of people have asked me questions on which laptop to buy if they're going to do music production, content creation, video editing, and streaming. And I do feel like the Lenovo Y540, which is the 17-inch version that I got, is very good at all those things. And content creation is much different from gaming. Though this can game very well, I will have you linked at the top right of the screen if you want to see some of the gaming specs and some of the benchmarks about that, because I have my own separate benchmark for this, and I'm going to weigh in on the pros and cons of this. So the configuration for my laptop that I'm reviewing is an i7-9750, which is a 6-core processor. Yes, you can get an 8-core processor if you do it on the Lenovo website. Other things about it that I like is that it came with 16 gigs of RAM stock, so that's actually really good, and it can go up to 32 gigs of RAM, which comes in handy if you are to do a lot of heavy editing in terms of video editing, as well as doing stuff inside of your DAW with a lot of plugins. These type of numbers, these stats matter the most. But if you want to stream, your dedicated GPU will work very well for that. And I stream at 1080 60 frames per second, and it is very high quality, so I will definitely say that just to keep it simple and sweet. And I think the absolute biggest part of me buying this laptop was the fact that it has an additional hard drive bay where I can put in a 2.5 SATA SSD hard drive, which is the way that I rock anyways, because I didn't want to uninstall Windows or start all over again. Though you could do that with this laptop, and you have a PCIe that's included as well, which is a M2 type hard drive, so therefore it plugs up to the motherboard, and it is much faster. They say it's 10 times faster, but I've seen some of the other tests and stuff like that, and it's just a smidget faster than your other solid state drive that you could have got years ago. Well, you still can, obviously, and so therefore I didn't see any bad deal about that. All I did was just press F2 while turning on the Lenovo laptop, and I went to my BIOS, and then all I did was set up the boot from my SATA drive. Speaking of upgrading on this, I think that's a very important thing. It can be very intimidating. You don't want to void the warranty by messing something up, but this is actually really good on the 17-inch, which is another reason why I bought it, because all you have to do is remove 2 screws, and then you pull out the chassis itself, and then all you have to do is just go and access all the stuff that you want as far as your memory and the hard drives. Easy. If you was to buy the 15-inch, you would have to remove 11 screws, and then things get a little crazy from there. It is not a very good experience, so I saw that and I avoided the 15-inch. Though the caveat with that is that the 15-inch weighs a whole lot less at 3 pounds, and the 17-inch weighs 6 pounds. So if you are one of those guys that are weak and frail, or one of the ladies out there that don't want to carry a 6-pound laptop, I can totally understand that. But it's a very thin laptop, by the way. I mean, the chassis actually looks very great, a nice matte finish. It isn't very disturbing with RGB lights, though you can change the opacity of the lights and you can do all that, but it's only one light style. So if you are into all those extra red, green, and blue and whatever colors that you like as far as RGB lighting, that will be a disappointment to you. But this is not a distracting laptop if you are one of those people that have to go to a lot of business meetings and stuff like that. Even though it is 17 inches, it's very huge. So here are the fans. I am trying to push it a little bit. I got my software open, I have my video editing software open, and of course I have my screen recording software. That's why you see me on the screen and I'm recording on there. And this is how loud the fans get. Now we're talking. Now you can hear the fans going as I edit this video right now. You can hear it, and I don't have anything else open or anything like that. I just want people to hear how loud the fans can get, just so they can decide if it's going to bother them or not. It doesn't really bother me, but it might bother other people. Outside of that, though, the battery life on this laptop, which I didn't talk about, is pretty decent. I mean, if you was to do some video editing or something like that, something CPU intensive, it'll probably last you about 2 hours, about 4 hours or so just browsing on the internet, which is better than it used to be on gaming laptops. Now keep in mind, again, this wasn't the laptop that I was considering. I was considering the Gigabyte Aero 15, which is going to be a better laptop for the money, but it didn't have the extra hard drive bay, and there was some other questionable things when it came down to the IOs, which I'll talk about a little later. But what I want to talk about is the keyboard in itself, which is a full-size keyboard, and it also has a numpad. I don't know why so many laptop companies are taking away the numpad, because it makes it a whole lot easier. If you were to use OBS, you can switch scenes, and then if you are a FL Studio user, you can use those numpads, as well as being inside of Ableton Live. The numpads come in handy as well, and it's just a really good thing. But one thing I do want to complain about is the trackpad. The trackpad is pretty small, and there's a lot of real estate in between the actual keys and the trackpad, and if you was to drag something from the very bottom of the screen all the way up to your recycle bin, it could be a pain in the butt cheeks, and it's something that you have to get used to. But the trackpad in itself is very accurate. It's just not the size I think it should be. The other big advantage of this laptop has to be the IOs. I think that the location of the IOs beat out all laptops, and I think a lot of laptop companies should follow suit when it comes down to Lenovo, but Lenovo has them beat right now with their Y540 series. You have a USB Type A 3.0 on the left and right hand side, but what really makes this laptop special is the other ports on the back. So you do have another Type A 3.0 port on the back with a HDMI out, a mini display port, and a USB Type C, and of course your charger is on the back too as well, so if you want to plug up your power brick, you can. I almost forgot to mention that it does have an Ethernet port on the back, and it does have Wi-Fi, and it has built-in Bluetooth as well, which is things that are standard on laptops these days, but I want to mention that. But what it does not have, and I'm very disappointed about it, and it doesn't have a SD card slot. Why in the world, Lenovo, would you leave that out? Please, in your next configuration, put that in. I do not want to use the Type C port just for the SD card slot. It's a waste of a slot if you have to do that. Why? And all these wires can be out the way. They are positioned perfectly for somebody that wants to have a studio setup with their laptop, and that's really good. So technically you can have 3 monitors plugged up to your laptop if you want. Speaking of monitors, the display that's built in on this looks really good. I mean, it is a 144 refresh rate IPS display, so you are getting the best at 1080p. I know a lot of people like the 4K displays on their laptops, or they really want that type of display, but you really don't, because of the power that it will drain out the battery, and it makes it very bad on the battery altogether. Another reason why I didn't get the Gigabyte Aero 15. So that means that if you are into Photoshop or just doing video editing, you can do some very good color grading, because the color gambit on there is extremely high. It's really good for doing editing in that nature, as well as if you're in your DAW to get right and accurate VU meters. It makes it much easier to do mixes as well. The Y540 does have a webcam, and yeah, this is how it looks like. Right. The integrated webcam on the display itself is located at the bottom, and it has a privacy slot, so that's actually pretty bad good. And the reason why I say bad good is because I actually like where it's located, because if I wanted to do a meeting, I have my laptop on a DJ laptop stand, so it is elevated at a angle to where it's pretty decent. But if you was to use it on a day-to-day basis, it wouldn't be that great if you have a flat surface. And also, you'll probably notice one other thing too as well. Well, I haven't talked about the audio quality in terms of the speakers on this laptop, because if you're a content creator or a music producer, musician, or whatever, you're going to have what we call an audio interface. My audio interface actually costs as much as this laptop, so therefore I do want my best quality as humanly possible. As you can see, my microphone right beside me, which is the Astra microphone. I love this microphone. Not positioned very well, but other than that though, but yeah, I'm not going to complain about something that I'm not going to use. I'm not going to use the speakers on the laptop. I keep mentioning that content creators that create on laptops have different needs than hardcore laptop gamers, and hardcore laptop gamers are more obsessed about running the most amount of frames on their graphics card when it comes down to gaming, which is respectfully so, because the more frames that you have, the bigger advantage. Trust me on that. But when we are using the graphic card, we're using it for streaming and other things as well, which I'm going to cover in these type of benchmarks. All right, so this is my benchmark test for music production right here. So please note that I am local recording at 1080p at 60 frames per second on this laptop while I am playing this track that has over 10 omnispheres. So this is how it will sound like. We're going to see what the computer stress is. So if you look at the top right of this screen, you can see the CPU usage, which is pretty much telling me that I'm at 13% with these omnispheres, and they all have different tracks. And that's a pretty good feat. And yes, I do have the legit version of Omnisphere. Don't do that in my comment section. But yeah, you can see this is impressive. And I'm also running a gaming capture card on my DSLR camera here, my Panasonic G85. I'm actually running 2 other cameras too as well. I'm gonna show you that. You're gonna see a crazy dirty tech bench right here. So we all know that the real test will be on something like this right here, Flow Motion, which is a very CPU heavy VST plugin, as always plugins are. But nonetheless, I'm only at 3% here, and again, I'm still local recording at 1080p 60 frames per second. Let's play what I got so far. I only have 5 open though. So as I went through some of the actual plugins themselves, you can actually see that the CPU is kind of locked in around, it's a little under 20%. So that's actually a pretty good CPU usage from 5 flow motions that are being utilized in this particular track here. I just made something real quick, but other than that, you can see that it's pretty incredible that I'm able to do that. And nonetheless, it does a great job of handling this stress. Last but not least, I gotta play some vocals, right? Because this particular test will help with people seeing that you can have a full tracked out song that you didn't even bounce down any of the plugins. For this much game, you need a membership. You work this hard and come with benefits. And I can't tell you what the feeling is. You hear the shit, but do you feel the shit? It didn't even go past 10%. And this is a full track, a whole bunch of vocals, 3 verses, and a full flushed out studio rack right here, which is Waves plugins, which aren't very system heavy. But now Ozone Imager is very system heavy. So therefore, you can see it can handle this task very well, and I'm actually happy about that. So tell me how you feel about this review. I definitely want to hear from you guys in the comment section. What laptop do you currently have? Does it work for you? Are you really happy with it? Because I'm really happy with this laptop. There's only a few things that I think I don't like about this laptop. The first thing I definitely want to address is that it does not have an SD card slot, and not having an SD card slot on a laptop is like a death wish. And I know it has a Type-C port, and that's where it's lacking, and I really want Lenovo to check that in the next configuration that they make, because an SD card slot is something that a lot of us content creators use, especially if you're a photographer. I'm a photographer as well as a music producer, and that's one thing I wanted to address as a con. The other con, I think you should adjust the trackpad, make it a little bigger. I mean, it wouldn't hurt the real estate of this laptop, especially for the 17-inch. I think that would be a huge boom for the 17-inch laptops. I think that is something that is underappreciated nonetheless. But the highs are highs. I really do like the performance of it. I've did a lot of tests, I have made a lot of tracks online, and I love the quality of my streams now at 1080p 60 frames per second. No stutters, no crashes, none of that stuff, and it's able to handle everything, and that is something I could quite appreciate. Do I give this laptop the stamp of approval? Yes, this is my first review, and probably going to be my last one on a laptop, because I'm not going to get laptops every damn week.